"We're eliminating your position effective immediately," my manager declared in front of the entire team. "Budget cuts." The phrase struck like a sharp slap as 20 coworkers fixed their eyes on me. A blend of disbelief and that unmistakable relief people feel when the blade falls on someone else. The conference room air felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Brock leaned back in his seat, a poorly hidden smirk tugging at the edge of his lips. This wasn't unexpected for him. A strange sense of calm settled over me as I collected my notepad. 2 years of being spoken over. 2 years of watching Brock pitch my strategies as if they were his. 2 years of being branded difficult when I challenged figures that never quite aligned. I rose slowly, straightened my skirt, and met his eyes without flinching. "Actually, perfect timing," I said, my voice steadier than I imagined. "I wish you all the best." The look of confusion on Brock's face as I walked out was nearly worth the public disgrace. Nearly. In my car, I gave myself exactly 3 minutes to cry. Not from sorrow, from pure, blazing rage. The kind that burns so fiercely it feels icy. The moment replaying in my mind wasn't today's termination. It was Brock leaning across his desk 6 months earlier. "The executive team doesn't think you show leadership potential. Try being more agreeable." What he truly meant. Stop questioning the quarterly reports that somehow always hit projections exactly despite the chaos I saw every day. "You're making mountains out of molehills," he'd said when I highlighted the discrepancies. "Some people just aren't meant for big-picture thinking." The following day, my calendar invites to strategy meetings vanished. The message couldn't have been clearer. Stay in your lane or suffer the consequences. What Brock didn't realize, 3 months earlier, the Industry Transformation Committee had contacted me directly. They'd noticed my questions at conferences, my insights posted in professional forums. They'd been quietly following my work, not the polished versions Brock fed to executives. They offered me a leadership role with one condition from my side: complete authority to build my own team. As I pulled out of the parking lot, my phone lit up with a message from Liv, the committee chair. "Heard what happened. Ready to start building your dream team now?" I typed back a single word. "Absolutely." That weekend, I placed 12 deliberate phone calls. Wait, before I go on, if you're enjoying this story so far, please tap that like button and subscribe to hear more stories like this one. Your support means everything, and I read every comment. Now, back to how I turned getting fired into the best opportunity of my career. My name is Ren Harper, and until that Friday afternoon, I was the Associate Director of Strategic Analysis at one of the largest firms in our industry. I'm the one who catches patterns others overlook, who plans 3 moves ahead, and who, according to my last performance review, lacks adequate team spirit to move up. What that truly meant was I refused to stop questioning why our forecasts always mirrored our results perfectly, despite massive market variables. I wouldn't accept that's just how it works as an explanation. Growing up as the middle child in a family of 7 taught me to speak up or disappear. My father, a mathematics professor, taught me that numbers never lie. People do. My mother, a trial lawyer, showed me how to stand firm when challenged. These were not traits Brock valued. On Saturday morning, I started with Amani from analytics. Exceptional at data visualization, passed over twice for promotions, despite creating tools that boosted department efficiency by 40%. "I'm not calling about what happened yesterday," I said when she answered. "The whole building knows, Ren. It was brutal." "That doesn't matter now. I'm calling because I'm building something new, and I need people who notice what others miss. I need you." Silence. "Then what exactly are you building?" I explained the committee's goal to create a new framework that would reshape how our entire industry operates. No more number manipulation, no more smoke and mirrors. "This isn't about revenge," I told her. Even though part of me knew that wasn't entirely honest. "This is about building something truthful. What's the compensation?" Practical Imani, always getting straight to the point. When I shared the number, nearly twice her current salary, she laughed. When do I start? I made 11 more calls just like that. To Aaron, whose diversity initiative was shelved because it wasn't a priority. To Yuri, whose innovative approach was labeled too experimental despite client interest. To Whitney, who questioned impossible growth targets and was pushed aside for 3 straight quarters. I didn't mention my termination. I simply shared my vision and offered roles with real recognition and pay. Why would anyone follow you? Brock once asked during a leadership assessment. He was about to find out. By Sunday evening, I had verbal commitments from all 12. Talent that had been suppressed, ignored, and wasted, now united by a shared purpose. On Monday morning, Brock walked in to find 12 resignation letters waiting, 12 vacant desks, 12 out-of-office replies routing urgent matters straight to his inbox. I pictured him sitting in his office, piecing it together one detail at a time. By Wednesday, he couldn't hold it in any longer. "What did you do?" he demanded when I answered his call. "I did exactly what you taught me to do," I replied calmly. "I recognized valuable assets when I saw them. You can't just," he sputtered. "Goodbye, Brock. I wish you the best with your restructuring efforts." We rented a converted warehouse space, all exposed brick and natural light, the opposite of the windowless rooms where most of us had been hidden away. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. "Welcome to day 1, I told my team as they gathered around the large central table. "We have 6 months to reimagine an entire industry." Imani raised her hand. "What if we fail?" It was the question everyone was thinking. We'd all left secure jobs, burned professional bridges. "Then we fail having tried something genuine," I answered. "But I don't think we will." The first month was chaos. Beautiful, productive chaos. Ideas flowed freely without the constant refrain of, "That's not how we do things." We challenged each other, built on concepts, tore down conventions. Meanwhile, our former employer scrambled. Clients began calling, asking why their strongest contacts had suddenly departed. Brock issued a company-wide memo about recent transitions and exciting restructuring opportunities. But there was a problem. He couldn't memo his way through the quarterly numbers without Imani's analytical skills, or Yuri's client management without Whitney's strategic planning and Aaron's team coordination. Without 12 key people performing daily miracles to make impossible targets appear achieved, the truth began to surface. For the first time in 5 years, the quarterly report showed numbers that reflected reality, and reality wasn't pretty. The business press noticed. "Unexpected shortfall raises questions about previous reporting accuracy," read one headline. The stock dropped 11% in a single day. But I wasn't focused on what we'd left behind. I was too busy building what came next. Our team settled into a rhythm. Imani transformed complex data into visualizations that told compelling stories. Yuri built relationships with forward-thinking potential clients. Whitney created realistic growth projections. Aaron ensured we maintained the inclusive culture we'd all craved. We weren't just colleagues. We became a kind of family that pushed each other to be better. We argued, we compromised, we celebrated small victories with impromptu dance parties and late-night strategy sessions fueled by too much coffee. 3 months in, we had a breakthrough. "The problem isn't just the reporting," Imani said during our weekly alignment meeting as she pulled up a visualization showing industry-wide patterns. "Look at these curves. Everyone's using the same broken model and hiding the failures." "So we don't just need a better reporting system," I said slowly, seeing where she was going. "We need an entirely new way to measure value," Whitney finished. That night, we worked until dawn, mapping out a framework that would transform how our industry evaluated success, one based on real impact rather than manipulated metrics. We called it the Transparency Matrix. Word spread through industry channels. Former colleagues began reaching out, asking if we had positions available. I received LinkedIn requests from executives who'd never acknowledged me in hallways. Then came the email from Jordan, the CEO of my former company. Your work sounds intriguing. Perhaps we should discuss potential synergies over lunch. I showed it to the team during our morning huddle. Are you going to meet him? Aaron asked. What do you think? I countered, looking around the circle. Whitney straightened her glasses. He ignored you for years, then fired you in front of everyone. Now he wants access to your ideas. Classic Jordan move. Or, Yuri offered, he's genuinely interested in what we're building. Either way, Imani added, his company's struggling. Their last earnings call was a disaster. I nodded, considering it. I'll meet him, not to partner, but to understand what he's really after. The following Tuesday, I sat across from Jordan at a small bistro downtown, 4 years as his employee, and this was our first one-on-one conversation. You've caused quite a stir, he began after ordering a $20 salad. 12 departures in one day. I've never seen anything like it. 13, I corrected. You fired me first. Remember. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. About that, Brock may have overstepped. We were restructuring. Yes, but my dismissal wasn't approved at your level. Interesting. I took a sip of water. So Brock made that call independently. Jordan shifted. Not exactly. There were concerns about your approach. My questions about the numbers? His eyes widened slightly, so he had known. I was never against analytical rigor, he backpedaled, but there are business realities that sometimes require flexibility. Flexibility, I repeated. Is that what we're calling fraud now? Jordan lowered his voice. That's a serious accusation, Ren. It's not an accusation. It's an observation. I set down my fork. Now, what exactly did you want to discuss today? Your transparency matrix. I've heard promising things. Maybe there's a way for our organizations to collaborate. And there it was, the real reason for this lunch. His company was in freefall, and the artificially inflated numbers had finally caught up with them. He needed our innovation to rescue what he'd built. We're not interested in collaboration, I said evenly. Don't be rash. We have resources, client relationships, infrastructure, and a culture that encourages people to manipulate data. No, thank you. Jordan leaned forward. Be realistic. This industry isn't big enough for both of us to succeed. Something in his voice made me pause. Not just desperation. There was a threat beneath it. Are you warning me about something, Jordan? He leaned back, a smile that never reached his eyes, just pointing out market realities. Startups run into unexpected problems all the time. The conversation left me uneasy. On my walk back to our office, I called Liv from the committee. Jordan just basically threatened us, I said after explaining the lunch. Not surprising. Your former employer has board connections with half the major players. They're not above putting obstacles in your way. What kind of obstacles? I've heard rumors they're approaching your potential clients, offering steep discounts in exchange for exclusive contracts. My stomach tightened. Can they do that? They can try. How's the matrix coming along? We're making progress, but we need another month before a full demonstration. You may not have a month. There's an industry summit next week in Denver. All the key decision makers will be there. If you could present even a prototype. I stopped walking. Next week? That's impossible. If anyone can pull it off, it's your team, Liv said, then paused. Jordan will be presenting too. His topic, innovations and transparency. The blade twisted. He was planning to steal our concept before we launched. I called an emergency team meeting the moment I got back. We need a working demo in 6 days, I said, explaining everything. Silence settled over the room. That's not possible, Whitney finally said, with our current approach. No, I agreed. But what if we narrow the scope, focus on one vertical instead of the entire industry? Imani was already typing. Healthcare has the cleanest datasets. We could build a streamlined demo around that. Aaron crossed his arms. Even with that constraint, we'd have to work non-stop. I looked at each of them. I won't pretend this will be easy. If anyone thinks we shouldn't try, say it now. Yuri stood. They tried to bury us. I say we show them we're seeds. A slow smile spread across Whitney's face. 6 impossible days it is. We turned our space into a round-the-clock operation. Couches became sleep stations. The fridge stayed full of energy drinks and meal bars. Spouses and partners dropped off home-cooked food and clean clothes. Day 3 nearly broke us. The algorithm kept producing inconsistent outputs. At 2 a.m., Imani snapped her laptop shut. This isn't working. The variables are too interconnected. I rubbed my eyes, fighting exhaustion. There has to be a solution. Maybe there isn't. Imani rarely raised her voice. Maybe Jordan was right. Maybe this is too ambitious. The room went silent. Jordan's name had become a curse in our office. Then Whitney, working quietly in the corner, looked up. What if we're approaching this backward? What do you mean? I asked. We're trying to account for every variable at once. But what if we use a cascading validation structure instead? Yuri leaned forward, processing each data layer before moving to the next. Exactly. Whitney went to the whiteboard. It would look like this. As she sketched the new approach, energy rushed back into the room. By dawn, we had rebuilt the entire framework. For the next 3 days, we coded, tested, debugged, refined. Sleep became optional. Clarity, something we preserved through sheer will. The night before flying to Denver, we ran the final test. The room held its breath as Imani executed the program. The screen filled with a 3-dimensional visualization showing healthcare outcomes mapped against intervention costs, administrative overhead, and patient satisfaction, all updating in real time as variables shifted. It's beautiful, Aaron whispered. It was more than beautiful. It was revolutionary. For the first time, the industry would have a tool that exposed hidden inefficiencies and rewarded genuine patient improvement instead of administrative games. As we stared at what we'd built, a notification appeared on my screen. An email from Brock. Heard you're presenting at the summit tomorrow. Bold move for someone so new to leadership. Jordan's presentation will be quite something. He's been working on it for months. A little advice from a former manager. Know when you're outmatched. I read it aloud to the team. Aaron snorted. Does he really think intimidation works on you? I smiled, but something about the email unsettled me. The wording suggested Brock knew details about our presentation. But how could he? Unless... I glanced around our close-knit group. 12 brilliant minds I'd personally recruited. 12 people I trusted with my professional life. Had I made a mistake? I studied the faces of my trusted team, wondering who might have betrayed us, and the thought made me feel sick. These weren't just coworkers. They'd become my chosen family. Everything okay, Ren? Whitney asked, noticing my expression. I forced a smile. Just pre-presentation nerves. We should all get some rest before the flight. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I replayed our journey, searching for clues I might have missed. Who had sudden money issues? Who kept ties with our former employer? Who might gain from playing both sides? No obvious suspect emerged. I'd chosen each person carefully because they'd been undervalued and overlooked. They had every reason to want this venture to succeed, and yet Brock knew something he shouldn't. The Denver Conference Center buzzed with industry professionals when we arrived the next morning. Our presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m., Jordan's for 11 a.m. Let's attend his presentation, I told the team. Know your enemy and all that? We slipped into the back row of the main hall, just as Jordan stepped on stage. His opening slides were filled with sleek graphics and buzzwords, standard fare for events like this. The future of our industry, he began, lies in greater transparency. I tensed. Had he actually stolen our idea? But as he continued, relief washed over me. His innovation was nothing more than a dashboard repackaging the same flawed metrics with prettier visuals. He hadn't understood the core problem at all. "He has no idea what we've built," Whitney whispered. After Jordan finished, we retreated to a small preparation room. The tension had eased slightly, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that someone had betrayed us. "I need to address something," I said, closing the door. "Brock's email suggests he knows details about our presentation. Has anyone been in contact with our former employer?" The question dropped like a stone into still water. Shock, then hurt, crossed their faces. "You think one of us is leaking information?" Yuri asked, disbelief clear in his voice. "I think someone might have," I clarified, perhaps unintentionally. Aaron stood. "This is ridiculous. We've all sacrificed everything for this." "I understand how it sounds," I said, but Brock knew. "Maybe he's bluffing," Imani cut in. "That's what he does. Sows doubt, pits people against each other." I wanted to believe that, but something still felt off. "If anyone has anything to share, now's the time." The silence stretched uncomfortably until Whitney cleared her throat. "I had lunch with Jade last week," she admitted. Jade had been her closest friend at our old company, but I swear I didn't discuss specifics about the Matrix. All eyes turned to her. "What exactly did you say?" I asked. "Just that we were presenting at the summit, that we'd had a breakthrough." "Nothing technical," Whitney insisted, adjusting her glasses nervously. I studied her, finding no sign of deceit. "Anyone else?" After a moment, Yuri raised his hand. "My brother-in-law still works there. We had dinner Sunday. I might have mentioned we were finalizing a healthcare vertical prototype." Another piece slid into place. Still, those sounded like minor leaks, not enough to compromise us. "Is that it?" Imani shifted in her chair. She started, then stopped. My heart sank. Not Imani. She'd been the first person I'd called. "Jordan reached out to me directly," she finally said. "Offered triple my current salary to come back. Said they were making real changes." "And?" I prompted, my mouth suddenly dry. "And I told him exactly where he could put his offer," she finished, eyes flashing. "But I wanted you to know he tried." Relief flooded me, followed instantly by shame for doubting her. "I'm sorry for questioning everyone," I said. "It's just that Brock's email is exactly what it looks like," Aaron cut in, a cheap intimidation tactic from someone who knows he's about to be outmatched. I nodded, finally letting go of my suspicion. "You're right. Let's focus on our presentation." As we organized our materials, there was a knock at the door. A conference center staff member stepped inside. "Miss Harper, there's a technical issue with the presentation hall. Could you come check the setup?" I followed her down a service corridor, away from the main conference areas. "What kind of technical issue?" I asked as we turned another corner. "I'll let him explain," she replied, opening the door to a small meeting room. Jordan sat alone at the table. "Thank you, Claire," he said to the staff member, who immediately left, closing the door behind her. "What is this?" I demanded. "A private conversation," Jordan answered calmly. "Please sit." I stayed standing. "Our presentation is in an hour. That's why this couldn't wait." He slid a folder across the table. "Take a look." Against my better judgment, I opened it. Inside were printouts, code fragments from our transparency matrix prototype, complete with our internal comments, ice settling in my stomach. "How did you get this? Does it matter?" "The point is, your presentation uses proprietary algorithms developed while you were employed at my company." "That's a lie," I said, though my mind raced. How had he obtained these fragments, and why did they look so familiar yet subtly wrong? "Is it?" "Our legal team disagrees." He pushed another document toward me. "This is a cease and desist. Present your so-called innovation today, and we'll file suit by morning." I skimmed the document, anger rising. These algorithms weren't developed at your company. They're entirely new. That's for the courts to decide. In the meantime, a prolonged legal battle would drain your resources. Investors hate uncertainty. He was right. Even a baseless lawsuit could scare off potential clients and partners. What do you want, Jordan? He smiled. Partnership. Your team joins us as a special innovation division. You get resources. We get your framework. Everyone wins. Except we'd be back under your control. No thank you. Consider the alternative. Years of litigation. Your brilliant team scattered, all because you were too proud to compromise. I looked at the code fragments again, something nagging at me. They were close to our current work, but not quite. Suddenly, it clicked. These aren't from our current prototype, I said slowly. These are from projects we worked on at your company, projects you shelved. Jordan's expression stayed neutral, but his jaw tightened. The concepts are similar enough to create legal ambiguity, he countered. No, they're not. My confidence returned. And you know it. That's why you're trying to intimidate me instead of filing suit. I gathered the papers and handed them back. We're presenting today. File your lawsuit if you must. As I turned to leave, Jordan said, There's one more thing you should know. Brock wasn't acting alone when he fired you. I paused, hand on the doorknob. I gave the order. Your questions were getting too close to things that couldn't become public. The admission hit harder than I expected, not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed what I'd always suspected. My dismissal was never about performance or budgets. Thank you for your honesty, I said. It makes what happens next much easier. I returned to our preparation room, my mind racing. The team looked up. Change of plans, I announced. We're adjusting our presentation. Why? Whitney asked. What happened? I explained my encounter with Jordan, watching concern turn into determination. He's bluffing, Imani said confidently after comparing our original code to what I described. Those fragments are from old development projects, which means, Yuri added, he doesn't actually know what we've built. But his threat gave me an idea. I moved to the whiteboard. What if instead of just demonstrating the healthcare vertical, we show how the matrix can expose financial manipulation? Aaron smiled slowly, using their own reported numbers. Would we have time to adjust the demo? Whitney asked. Imani was already typing. If everyone helps. Yes. For the next 40 minutes, we worked at a frantic pace, reshaping our presentation to include a segment on financial reporting transparency using publicly available data from our former employer. At exactly 2 p.m., I stepped onto the stage. The hall was full. Industry leaders, prospective clients, and yes, Jordan and Brock seated in the front row. Today, I began, we're going to show you something that changes everything. The presentation flowed flawlessly. First, the healthcare vertical demonstration revealed how our framework delivered real transparency in patient outcomes. The audience leaned in, instantly understanding the implications. Then came the moment that mattered most. But healthcare isn't the only industry struggling with opaque metrics, I continued. Let's examine financial reporting practices. Jordan shifted in his seat as our visualization displayed his company's public financial data from the past 5 years. Notice these patterns, I said, highlighting suspicious consistencies. When processed through our transparency matrix, statistical anomalies become impossible to ignore. The screen pulsed with red flags, impossible consistencies, suspicious timing of adjustments, patterns that defied probability. I never accused them of fraud. I didn't have to. The data spoke clearly on its own. As we finished to thunderous applause, I looked directly at Jordan. Transparency isn't a buzzword. It's the future. Those who embrace it will thrive. Those who don't. I let the rest hang in the air. The fallout was immediate. By evening, 3 major clients approached us about implementing our framework. An investment group requested an exclusive meeting. Industry press surrounded our team for interviews. Jordan and Brock left without saying a word. 2 weeks later, our former company announced a leadership transition. Jordan stepped down as CEO. Brock was pursuing other opportunities. An internal audit was launched. We didn't celebrate their collapse. We were too focused on building something meaningful. 6 months after the Denver summit, our framework had been adopted by 30% of the industry. Our team grew to 40 people, each chosen for brilliance and integrity. The most satisfying moment came when Brock applied for a role with us. His resume highlighted his proven ability to develop talent. I didn't reject him outright. Instead, I invited him to interview with Whitney, Aaron, Imani, and Yuri, the very people he once dismissed and underestimated. They evaluated him fairly and found him lacking. We need someone who champions others' growth, not someone who takes credit for it, they wrote in their rejection letter. I never said I told you so. I didn't need to. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you. It's building something better in its place. Something that transforms not just your life, but an entire industry. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. I hope it reminds you that your voice matters, your ideas have value, and sometimes being pushed out of one door is exactly what leads you to the right one. If this resonated, please like and subscribe for more stories of transformation. I read all your comments and love hearing how you faced your own professional challenges. Until next time, remember, your greatest strength isn't fitting in, it's standing out.